A Fairy Godmother's Misadventure. A Cinderella Story. By Elisa Florendo. Meddlesome. Star. Oh dear, here we go again. I was back at that manor house where Elle lives, and let me tell you, I was getting livid. I had visited Elle many times over the years. Yes, the moment her mother died, I got marching orders that little Elle needed someone badly, a fairy godmother. She was by no means my first charge, but by far she was the one that needed me the most. Wards who only needed a push here or a pull there to get their lives running smoothly seemed to be my usual fare, and I was very stealthy and good at my job. My wards never knew it was me, and I liked it like that just fine. Oh, you know the kind of thing I did. Just a suggestion here that a bunch of flowers would be welcome. Or the occasional animal that was able to speak. In fact, the animals spoke on my behalf. Elle spoke daily with the mice, chicks, and birds. They loved her. So, when I enchanted them, they just expressed all the love they had for her kind soul. I thought I was doing great until her father died, leaving her in the care of a callous, scheming stepmother and her two avaricious yet empty-headed daughters. My tactics were left wanting, and I had no idea how to get this to the next level. My sister, Ember, often laughed at my techniques. You see, I think you would agree that talking to oneself is weird in and of itself. But talking as though one is a mouse or bird and having a conversation with your ward, that must take the cake, right? That is what Ember thought. She laughed hysterically, a time or two, when I was making desperate movements and telling Elle that my friend was caught in a trap and if she would be so kind as to help him out. I just brushed that laughter off. Let's face it, Ember's godmothering techniques are much different from my own. She loves to get a feel of the terrain, be a part of the scene that unfolds, hands-on, if you get my drift. So, she appears to her wards in disguise and enjoys their epic as much as she enjoys helping her wards. Extremely interesting stories to be sure, but back to my story. That stepmother and those ugly girls are really asking for it. My blood was boiling at how cruel humans can be sometimes, and these three ladies were particularly adept at being cruel. As I waded through my angry energy, I suddenly noticed that Ember had come to the manor house too and was looking at me and shaking her head in, what I realized was, disappointment. She really thinks I should be more present in Elle's life, but I cannot contrive to do so the way Ember does. She is a genius at that sort of thing. It is her talent after all. I would surely bumble everything up, even though it hurts my heart that I cannot be there as a friend. Ember always makes that sound before she stings with her version of the truth. But. And here it comes. The real question is, will you do anything about it, Star? Will you continue to let shyness keep you back from truly enjoying this job? For once, do not just wave that wand to help Elle keep 3 trays of tea from crashing. Speak to her yourself and do not use those poor animals to talk to her. She is lonely and could use a friendly, encouraging face if this is what she must go through daily. At some point you need to bring her a bit of hope, directly. She needs it and deserves it. Ember said with so much fire I had to take a step back. I do envy my sister and her passion. But, Ember, I have never let her down over the years. I say defensively. We don't have to actually appear to our wards, do we? The rules never allowed us to do that before. Rules, rules, rules. Oh, that nasty tone again. This is where Ember shows her rebellious side. True, you have reached out to Elle quite well, I admit. Well, finally, some acknowledgement for good works. But times are changing, Star. Strict rules no longer apply as clearly as they did centuries ago. And the Fairy Council has other tasks occupying their attention to worry about how we help our charges. Creativity. That is what you need to tap into. You are pushy, sister. I am not you. Your methods do not work for me. It would result in certain disaster. Never would have been able to get that little mermaid from the clutches of Ursula, if I wasn't pushy, sister. We both hear a deep, resonant chuckle and turn toward the other window. Sure enough, it is Flix. He hangs around hoping to enamor Ember. He has not yet been successful, although I think his persistence is charming. He is a tall, handsome fairy, and I think he is vying for a place on the Fairy Council, seeing as how he is our prince. I am not really sure how that works. Both Ember and Flix like stirring things up, so I look over at him warily as Ember says. Flix, fancy seeing you here. You look like you are up to no good, as usual. Ember is Flix's age and uses it to free herself from being formal with him given his princely status. I think he likes that she gives him a hard time. I see his interest flare every time. They would be powerful together. He knows it. Ember, however, is on another wavelength. But I am not fairy godmother to those two. I wonder who would be. Do fairies have fairy godmothers? Those two certainly need a push. Another chuckle greets us. He unfolds all 6'5" of himself from under the window and then looks at me directly and smiles. Star, a pleasure as always. I nod. Then, he looks at Ember with heat in his eyes. Ember, you are truly an inspiration. He winks at her before walking away chuckling again. Ugh! That bony fairy is getting my embers all hot. She fumes. Now I cannot help but chuckle myself. You like him, don't you, Em? No. Ember says, too quickly, and I interject yet again, you meant Bonnie, didn't you? When will you see that you two are a perfect fit? Star, you know I have to find him from the dream that I told you about. I have to find him. Flix is but a mere annoyance. But don't you go distracting me from the business of helping Elle out. She pouts. And smirks, knowing that I have a much more vested interest in Elle than she does. Sisters. They sometimes do not want to see what is right in front of them, using distraction as a tactic to remove that attention from themselves. I am easily distracted though, so I reply, right, what do I do? I look around for inspiration, and then to my horror I look at the family. Oh no. Are they really going to tear that dress? What fiends they are. Seems like it, Star. What are you going to do about that? Ember eggs me on. I feel a fire rising inside of me, burning to do something, and as the three hags in her life leave Elle in her dress, destroyed near the fireplace, I slip down beside her. She is whimpering helplessly, and suddenly my mouth seems to have a mind of its own. Stop whimpering, Elle. I command, and my eyes pop at my daring. Gee, why do I now sound like bossy Ember? Elle looks up at me with frightened eyes, and I know I spoke a tad harshly, nothing like my usual compassionate voice. I bend down, and looking into her eyes, I say, you want to sit here and cry, or you want to meet that prince? Out of the corner of my eyes, I see Ember grin. Huh. I do not feel shy at all. This is truly strange. And somewhat liberating to speak my mind, I must say. Before she can get the words out, I say, do not let them kick you down, Elle. If I remember what that missive said correctly, you were also invited to the ball. Feel that fire inside you and use it. Fire? Ember. Are you shadowing me? Let me do my job in peace. But I don't have anything to wear now. They ruined my mother's dress. They did, but I can fix that. I assure her. My voice is much truer to the compassion I feel for her. You can? She asks. But of course. I didn't earn my fairy godmother certificate 3 centuries ago for nothing. True. Fairy, huh? 3 centuries ago. Oh, come on then, details don't really matter. The point is that you deserve to have a chance just like your 2 hag stepsisters. That is precisely why I am here. I bluster on. What is going on? Why am I speaking like Ember? Ember, show yourself. We have work to do, Elle. Let us see, get me a carrot, 4 mice, 2 lizards and 4 tomatoes. Tomatoes? Really? Well, yes, for the wheels. Oh, right. Wait, those would be red wheels. Before I can say anything, Elle gets up and does what I ask quickly, efficiently. That girl deserves so much, and tonight I have a fire in my belly and I just know we will have a great adventure. When everything is set out before us, I begin to wave my wand and let my stars do their magic. So, you are going to do that wand thing again? Ember asks. Isn't it outdated? I jump, startled. Ember. Goodness, what are you doing here? I thought you left. I question her. I am here to see if you were going to try something new, of course. I will find Flix later, don't you worry. He was up to something and I will find out what it was. She answers. Well, step back, I need space to work. Elle looks at both of us, steps back from the things she brought me and asks Ember, who are you? Well, let me see, if Star here is your fairy godmother, then that makes me your fairy godaunt. But I do not get to do anything for you, dear. Such a pity. While they speak, I wave my wand in peace at the items Elle set out before me, knowing that I must make Elle a carriage with horses, a driver and footmen. A cloud of stars settles over them and a sudden burst of light indicates that my work will soon appear. And appear it does. Oh my, says Elle, clearly astonished. How fantastic, a limousine, says Ember and cackles in delight. I knew you had it in you, Star. Bravo. What? What is this nonsense, Ember? I say, outraged, scrutinizing my wand for any imperfections and looking back at the golden limousine with the red tires. A pimped-out ride if I ever saw one. I look at the footmen and they look at me. They have not the foggiest idea what that contraption is, only that it is shiny. One of them touches the limo in awe and Ember confidently goes to the door, pulls on a lever, and opens it. Voila! Here, driver, she waves him over, this is where you get in to drive the limo. Ember says. The driver gingerly gets in and sits there in silence and bug-eyed. His hands touch everything and then he looks out the window and says, the reins, fairy. Reins, I reply, stupefied. I haven't the slightest clue of how this contraption functions, let alone where he can find the reins. Limos have no reins, nor do they have horses, driver, exclaims Ember. Here, let me show you. While she shows him a series of lighted buttons, I get closer to them, looking around to the footmen and Elle to make sure they do not hear me. Nothing like a fairy who appears not to know what she is doing. Ember, where are the horses? I whisper to her. Limos have horsepower, Star, not to worry. No need for horses because it has an engine. She is so nonchalant about it, it irks me. Ember. I am losing my patience. I have never conceived of such a contraption. Where did it come from if not from my own machinations? 20th century, dear Star. 20th century. Elle pipes up, her eyes huge. We will have some cleaning up to do, it appears. Elle should not know anything about the future. Star, Come. You must get Elle ready. I think a gown is in order, don't you? Ember is quick to change to the issue at hand rather than satisfy Elle's curiosity and mine for that matter. So, you do know that less information in the hands of our wards the better. Yes, of course. A gown. I wave my wand again and the stars settle about Elle. Ember, the driver, the footmen and I all sigh when the dust settles and Elle steps out. Fascinated. Twirling. I can say that this is the most heartwarming part. To see the delight and hope in Elle's eyes as she notices each detail made just for her and with all my love. At least that went right. And then we set about getting her to the limo, and as we approach the doors Ember stops us in our tracks. Oh, but, Elle, you need shoes. You cannot go to the ball wearing those, says Ember in disgust. Ember. Can you let me do my job here? And do not destroy Elle's confidence with your scathing comments. Yeesh, what kind of godmother are you anyway? I shout at her. An interesting one if you must know. Get cracking then, star. Tick-tock. And so, I wave my wand for the third time that night, putting everything into the fact that I want Elle to be as confident as a girl can be. But to my horror, I see. What is that? Combat boots? No, no, no. Those just will not do. Wrong century. And nothing fit for a princess. I can just imagine Ember telling me about the Princess Diaries. What I do hear is a symphony of her low giggling and Flix's deep chuckling. So, he did not go too far off then. I try again. Something must be wrong. I made mermaid fins and Elle just about topples with mirth. Star, if this is what you do on the daily, I have to say that I need to visit you more often. She tries, truly, to contain her amusement while Flix is having his own fight with mirth. Those footmen, though, bless their hearts. They are quick to help Elle, making sure she does not topple over in mermaid fins in that fine ball gown. Ember, meanwhile, is about to fall over herself as giggles literally bubble out of her as she struggles to remain silent. The footmen and driver are also trying their very best not to laugh. What? I have never even had the pleasure of meeting the mere people. That is Ember's forte. I stop and take a deep breath. Weird things are happening. Something that I cannot put my finger on is afoot. Things are flipping. An image of Flix and his meddling comes to mind for some unexplainable reason, but I have no time to dwell on it. Star, come now. She is not about to meet Triton in his underwater world. She needs fabulous shoes, not a fish tail. Brilliant shoes. Ah, and before I can stop her, Ember waves her hands in typical Ember style and the most amazing glass slippers appear on Elle's feet from a fiery glow. The footmen and I clap with delight. Ember frowns, not what I had in mind. Odd. I frown too. Ember should not be able to intervene, should she? I must review the fairy godmothering rules. Elle lifts the dress and squeals her excitement, making me smile. That is what I am talking about. Ember is also wearing a very wide smile. My heart warms as I see my sister in a softer light. Elle's laughter is like powerful magic of its own. Magic that she has not issued for a very long time. As I take a moment to ponder why Ember can do anything at all for Elle, who is my ward and not hers, I see at the edge of my vision, Flix. He appears transfixed. What is Flix doing here? I thought he left. That is my first angry thought. Like I do not have enough to contend with Ember here too doing her thing which is interfering. Then, it occurs to me that he is staring directly at Elle and nothing else. I freeze. What is going on? Meanwhile, Elle and the footmen are being ushered to the limo by Ember. But it occurs to me to ask, Ember, can that long vehicle transport Elle safely on the cobble roads here? Ember stops and looks at me. Come to think of it, no. The lanes are rather narrow for the limo and the surface much rougher than 20th century roads. Suddenly we see the limo covered in atoms moving in chaotic rhythm. Then, transform into a splendid carriage. I know that I did not conjure that, and neither did Ember, not our work, not our style. Heart beating fast, I look around amid the squeals from Elle and the footmen. Sure enough, there is Flix. He has the look of magic just done. His face an unusual glowing reflection of a job well done and with love. He looks towards us in that instant and begins to back away, eyes wide with worry and trepidation. Oh no, you don't, Flix, shouts Ember as she runs behind him. You cannot interfere and then run away like that. She knows full well we three are now invested in this business. It should not be so, but it is. He retorts before disappearing, catch me if you can, Ember. You know I love a good hunt, but his voice does not hold the same fire it once did. I snap to my senses as the carriage begins to move. Elle, wait, it has been unusual to receive gifts from 3 fairies at once. But this boon can only last until midnight. You must return home before then. She smiles, of course, thank you so very much for this opportunity, Fairy Godmother. Off they go. I feel unsettled and happy at the same time. I sigh contentedly and am interrupted by Ember, that buffoon is asking for it. Who knows what his meddling will mean for that poor girl? We must go. Quick, transform yourself, Star. We cannot leave her to the meddlesome ways of Flix. And poof! Suddenly, Ember is also dressed like a princess in full regalia. I sigh, my work is a tad complicated tonight, and I am already exhausted. I hope the Fairy Council has better things to do than keep track of us. So, I too wave my wand and transform myself in a less flamboyant version of Ember. Here goes nothing. Coming up. Part 2.